Hello, I'm Neil Quigley and welcome to the latest episode of my Blogcast. Hope you're well and you've had a good couple of weeks. Mine have been very good, thank you very much. A couple of weekends ago, it was the 4th anniversary of mine and my girlfriend's very first date, which, as with most first dates, was a slightly awkward meeting in a pub on a Sunday for an hour or so, both on soft drinks, chatting and getting to know each other a bit. Happily, that went well, and we arranged to meet up for a meal at a particular restaurant just 6 days later, but more on that later. So to celebrate this anniversary, Linda managed to book us 2 nights in a very nice hotel in Russell Square in London, the Kimpton Hotel. So we met up there after work on the Friday, and then we went straight out to try and get some food. Now, as you all know, if you've listened to any of these podcasts, my girlfriend is a big foodie. She likes eating nice food and trying out lots of new and different places. Now, I was diagnosed as a celiac, which means I have to keep to a very strict gluten-free diet. Obviously, that change has restricted somewhat the places that we can both go together. She, however, is very good, very inventive, and is always looking for new places that offer either great and safe gluten-free food that I can have, or places that are fully gluten-free. Therefore, in those places, I can actually order anything from the menu. She pulled out another blinder for this meal. She found a chicken place in Soho that was gluten-free. So she'd booked us a table there. We arrived and were shown to our table. It is quite a small little place with not too much room, so it is a bit cosy. And we were sat right by the door, and it wasn't the warmest evening in the world. I was next to the door, and I sat down and took off my coat. But after a few minutes of people walking in and out of the door behind me, I decided to dine with my jacket on. I was just too cold. I feel the cold terribly, so I did have to keep warm. To be fair to the staff, they did notice that and made a special effort to try and keep the door closed, which was very good of them, but not their fault. Every time it was open, it was quite a chilly night, and there was a very cold breeze that came through. So jacket on was the order of the day for dinner. The food itself was very nice. We both had a nice little starter each just to ease ourselves in. And what this restaurant is known for is their particular special sauce that they put on the chicken. It's a guava sticky sauce that they put over their signature dishes. So obviously we both felt we had to try that. It comes in 2 options, chicken thigh or half a chicken. Now, I have eaten out at many places over the years, and generally when you order half a chicken, the chicken they've chosen, I often find, is a lot smaller than you think a chicken should be, or your average chicken size. Therefore, I didn't think chicken thighs would be enough to feed me, so I went for the half chicken. Linda's arrived first, and she had ordered just the chicken thighs. That plate that she had was huge. At that point, I did regret ordering the half a chicken. I hadn't even seen it yet, but looking at how big and substantial the chicken thighs meal was, I feared the worst. And sure enough, my half of chicken arrived that I'd ordered with cheesy chips, and it was huge. I was not completely sure that it wasn't half an ostrich that they had served me, but as ever, never a man to leave anything on his plate. I made my way through it. It tasted absolutely fantastic. So good. Very sweet, their glaze they use, which is right up my street. I do like the sweet stuff. So once we'd finished eating in there, Linda virtually had to roll me out the door because I was so full after all that chicken. Was lovely though, no complaints at all. We will definitely go back there again. Friday nights out in London are quite rare for us nowadays, unless we're going to the theatre, in which case by the time that ends, we haven't really got time to go anywhere other than maybe a pub on the way to the station before we get the train home. This time, though, we had a free pass in London for the night. Now, I knew that we were eating in Soho. The restaurant wasn't a surprise. So I thought there's nothing worse than just walking around London trying to find a bar or a club or somewhere to go where you don't really know where you're going and you're not sure what you really want to do. I've done that before, and sometimes you can spend hours wandering around. Even when you find a place you like, there might be a massive queue or you might not even be able to get in. Therefore, I decided to book us a table at a club I found online. Now, it was called the Arts Theatre Club, and it is in Soho. I looked at their website, I read the history of the place, sounded right up my street, a former private members club where actors and musicians used to meet up. I thought that sounds perfect. The pictures looked great. It appeared it was relatively low-key and relaxed, but the drinks looked really good, so I thought that would be perfect. After dinner, we can go there and have a few drinks. When we arrived, initially they couldn't find my booking, which is never ideal. However, they found it and we got in and they showed us to our table. It was really nice in there and it did look as it did in the pictures. But what I didn't realise, on a Friday night, they have a live DJ in there playing some great songs, I will admit, but they do pack the place out a bit, so it gets a little bit cosy. And the bar in there is actually quite small. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved jumping the queue because we were on the guest list to get into the place and being shown to our table. We did get to the bar quite quickly for our first drink, and the drinks in there were great, no problem whatsoever. The music was fine. It was just because there was no real dance floor, people were using everywhere as the dance floor. So it got quite cosy the later it went. So we just stayed in there for a couple of drinks in the end. I would go back there again, maybe in the week when it's a little bit quieter. Am I getting old? I don't know. Maybe a little bit. Or do I prefer the slightly quieter, finer things in life now? Who knows? It had gone 11 o'clock by this point, so we decided to head back to our hotel and try out the hotel bar there. It being quite a nice hotel, the bar was highly recommended. Although we were a bit concerned when we arrived there and there was a queue to be seated, and we heard the guy on the front desk asking the people in front if they'd made a reservation. They had and got shown straight to their table. We hadn't made a reservation, so we're not totally sure if we'd be able to get in or not. Happily, he came to us next and he did find us a seat straight away. They did have quite a quirky and odd cocktail menu. It was themed by colours. So in the book they gave you, for each of the cocktails they served, there was a picture of a flower with different colours. Basically, they suggested you pick your favourite flower and that would tell you what drink you should go for. And then they had a little torch on every table. And if you shone the torch on the page of the flower you selected, it revealed a little message telling you about the sort of person who chooses that colour and kind of supposedly telling you a bit about yourself. Now, as I'm still not drinking, I wanted to go for a mocktail and they only had alcoholic cocktails that could be chosen by colour. So I had a mojito, which was very nice. Now, Linda, despite looking through the book several times, couldn't find any green flowers, her favourite colour, so she decided to go off menu and order an old-fashioned cocktail, which she does enjoy. The bar itself, as you'd imagine for a nice hotel, was very well designed. The staff were great, had a very relaxed and chilled atmosphere. Great place to have a couple of late night drinks. The next morning we thought we'd try out the hotel breakfast. That can always be a bit of a minefield for me. Often my breakfast consists of yogurt and fruit because that is the safest gluten-free stuff that I can have. However, they did look after me very well, even though my starter was yogurt and some fruit, which was lovely, no complaints, but they did manage to supply me with poached eggs on gluten-free bread. As I mentioned in the last episode, I have developed a bit of a taste for lattes. There is a very nice coffee shop attached to the hotel we were staying at. So before we headed off for the day, we went next door and had a coffee. Well, Linda had a coffee, I had a latte, which was very enjoyable. Again, just a nice, chilled, relaxed place. We'd booked somewhere that I absolutely love for dinner, but we had a bit of time before our reservation. And Linda and I, neither of us have been to the Royal Opera House. We want to go there and see an opera at some point, hopefully later this year. But they have a rooftop terrace there. So we thought we'd go up and have a look at that. It was very, very busy. Obviously, a very popular place. You get great views over Covent Garden from there. We went up there and had a drink each. I, again, had a mocktail, which was very nice. Linda treated herself to some wine. We found some seats and enjoyed the view. I would imagine it would be slightly nicer in the summer. I did find it a little bit chilly sitting outside there, but it's definitely somewhere I would go back to. There is a restaurant called Indigo. It's based at One the Aldwych, the hotel on the Strand. Linda took me there for my birthday 3 years ago, and for me, it is perfect and brilliant. It is fine dining, so it's not a cheap place to go and have your dinner, but it is completely gluten and dairy free, which means, of course, I can choose from every single thing on the menu, knowing it is perfectly safe. And also, if Linda can't eat any of her food, this is very rare nowadays, but I can help her out if necessary. It is definitely a treat place. We were on our way to the theatre and they do a 2 or 3 course theatre deal, so we thought we'd take advantage of that. We booked a table just as it opened. The service in there is so great. From the moment you walk into the hotel, the staff are fantastic. They direct you upstairs to the restaurant where you're greeted. They take your coat straight away, put it to the cloakroom, show you to your table, and your waiter comes over and introduces themselves straight away. And the look of the place is great. It's got a really nice feel to it, which I like. And the food, oh my word, the food is amazing. Gluten-free bread is one of the issues of my life. It is quite hard finding good stuff that is tasty and doesn't seem cardboardy sometimes. As an appetizer, they bought us a gluten-free bread roll each with seaweed butter. My word, it tasted fantastic. So good, in fact, I actually asked if I could have a second one, and they very happily supplied that to me. The drinks in there, as you would expect for that class of place, were very good as well. I had, once again, another fantastic mocktail. So good was this one, I actually had 2 of them during the course of the meal. For starters, I had a smoked salmon dish, which was just ridiculous. It looked like it should have been on MasterChef, and it tasted like it should have been as well. For my main, they did a take on a bit of a miniature lamb roast. Again, the meat was cooked absolutely perfectly. Everything you'd expect it to be. And there was a lot more meat than I was expecting as well. Sometimes in these places, you get very well cooked items, but you kind of think, oh, I wish there was a little bit more. Not on this occasion. That was all fine. And every meal should be finished with something sweet, in my opinion. So they had on their desserts menu a kind of deconstructed rhubarb, crumble and custard. That's what it was in essence, but it was completely messed about with, turned on its head with slightly different ingredients and ways of making things. I ordered that because I was keen to try it. That was absolutely lovely. Linda, who doesn't often order dessert, went for the chocolate brownie with the thinking that if she couldn't eat all of it, because we're in a fully gluten-free restaurant, I could, of course, help her out if required, and I do not need any encouragement to eat extra chocolate, that's for sure. So as it turned out, I did end up having half of her brownie as well. When I made the booking, I did mention that the reason we were there was for our anniversary. And right at the end of the meal, they brought out a chocolate cake with happy anniversary on it. I also got to eat the lion's share of that as well. I do like eating at Indigo. It's not the cheapest place in the world to eat, but I do think it's still value for money for the food you get, the quality of that and the price you pay. We will definitely be going back there again at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, although we do try and keep it very much to being a treat place to go. We finished our dinner with plenty of time to head to the theatre to watch the play that we had tickets for. It was at the Noel Coward Theatre, and we'd already pre-ordered our drinks to have before the start of the performance. And I was so happy with what they had on offer. At the moment, I'm not drinking alcohol. I am gluten-free, which does restrict what you can have sometimes. They had the one thing I've been drinking quite a bit of at home. There is a lager called Freedom, which is both gluten-free and alcohol-free. You rarely see it anywhere. I've yet to see it in a pub. I've yet to see it in a restaurant, sadly. However, amazingly, at this theatre, they did Freedom. So I ordered one of those on arrival, and we got the same again for the interval as well. I was so happy about that. Couldn't believe it. The play we went to see was The Motive and the Cue. It's the behind-the-scenes story of the Broadway production of Hamlet that starred Richard Burton and was directed by Sir John Gielgud. It was the first time the two had worked together, and I believe the way this play actually came about, they recorded all the rehearsals on a tape player. All the conversations that took place, all the actual rehearsals were recorded. Somebody found these tapes a while ago, and from that they wrote this play about how their relationship was great at first. They both respected each other. As the process and the pressure of trying to get this production ready in rehearsals went on, they started to grate and fall out a bit, but ultimately it all came together in the end. It stars Mark Gatiss as John Gielgud and Johnny Flynn as Richard Burton. They are both brilliant. It's very well done. Obviously, with Richard Burton, one of the characters is, of course, Elizabeth Taylor, his then wife. The whole cast are fantastic, and you get treated to quite a lot of Hamlet as well, because you're watching them basically rehearse Hamlet, and then you get all the behind-the-scenes notes and conversations and the various meetings between members of the cast away from the theatre. We thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really, really good. It's not on for too much longer, so if it does sound like your kind of thing, I would definitely book tickets. It is an excellent play. After the play had finished, we did contemplate trying to find another pub, but in the end we decided to head back to the hotel. We thought about going to the hotel bar as we did the night before, but we thought, we've already did that. So believe it or not, I don't know if this is genius or sad, I'll let you decide, but we went back to our room and ordered some drinks on room service and got them delivered. So we just sat there having some drinks, unwinding and watching a bit of TV. It just seemed like the perfect end to the day in the end. We had 2 great nights staying at the hotel, and then we thought we'd make the most of one final day in London before we headed home. We were not totally sure what we were going to do. We're trying to think and work it out. In fact, we still didn't know when we checked out of the hotel and went to the coffee shop next door for a coffee and a latte once again. The plan was to sit there and try and work out what to do with our day. Linda does like a museum or a gallery. I don't mind them, but they're not necessarily my first choice. But we did go to the National Gallery of Scotland when we were in Edinburgh, and I enjoyed looking around that. So she suggested that we should go to the National Portrait Gallery just off Trafalgar Square. I've not been before, but I didn't need too much convincing. I am a big fan of history. I studied it at GCSE, and I do find it fascinating. When she explained that a lot of the portraits are of well-known historical figures, I thought, yeah, that would probably be all right. It is free to go there, although they do ask you for a donation, which we did give, but you can book a slot to turn up at in advance, just so it keeps the numbers at a reasonable level as you head round. I really enjoyed it. We looked round the whole thing. There's some great portraits of the royal family from Tudor times right up to the present day. I really enjoyed having a look round there. And as well as pictures, they do have some photographs as well. A few exhibitions and some more modern, up-to-date photographs of a lot of very famous comedians, musicians, actors, scientists. It's really good. I had a thoroughly good time. We ended up spending about 3.5 hours in there looking around in the end before it was time to catch our train and go home. There was a great picture of Morecambe and Wise in there, which I really liked. Wish I had a copy of that. And it made me think at the end of the day that I do somehow want to get a massive portrait of me in that National Gallery. I think that would be a great thing to leave behind. How I get myself famous enough to be painted and to hang in there, I don't know yet. I'll have to work on it. February and March is generally quite an expensive time for me. Valentine's Day, of course, is February the 14th. As I said a couple of weekends ago, it was the 4th anniversary of mine and Linda's first date. And last weekend, it was her birthday. So we spent the weekend together. I went round and saw her on her birthday, which was the Friday, to hand over her cards and her presents. One of those was tickets to go and see the King's Players, which is Sir Ian McKellen doing some Shakespeare, which she really desperately wanted to see. And I managed to get hold of a couple of tickets for that. I'm hoping she might take me along because I would quite like to see that too. I mentioned earlier on in this episode that for our second date, we went to a restaurant. That restaurant was in Berkhamsted. It's called Tabure. And owing to the fact that it was, if you like, our first proper date where we had a meal and spent hours and hours and hours chatting to each other, we try and keep it for kind of special occasions. So we decided to go there as part of her birthday celebrations last weekend. Although we did very much do our own thing during the day before dinner. She had a Pilates retreat to go to with her local group, which she did for a relaxing afternoon. I went and saw Tottenham beat Crystal Palace at our stadium, which was far from a relaxing afternoon, but it was very, very enjoyable in the end. We then met back up in the evening to head to the restaurant. It's a Turkish restaurant, and you have the option of either having full large meals or a bit like tapas. You can have lots of little small plates and share them between you. They sat us down at our table and then sorted our drinks out. I had yet another very nice mocktail. In fact, it was so good, I'd already finished it before they even had chance to take our food orders. The food in there is so good. Their dishes are lovely. Always takes me ages to decide what to eat. And basically, it is pretty much all gluten-free. The only gluten they really have is the pita bread they serve with some dishes. So as long as I don't have the bread, obviously I can have everything in there, which means Linda and I can actually do the sharing thing and have lots of different dishes to try. Now, because we've been there several times over the last 4 years, we do have our own favourites that we kind of have to have every time we go there, which is a bit of a double-edged sword because it all looks so good. You want to try new stuff and new things, but at the same time, you know the things you like are so good, you don't want to miss out on not having them. Anyway, we managed to order a nice selection of food and actually the right amount. We'd been there before where we've got a bit carried away and ordered way too much food, and you don't really enjoy the meal then because you just feel so full of bloated at the end of it. We got it absolutely perfect with the amount of food we had. Linda even had a dessert as well, which I know I've said is rare, and it is rare, but I also appreciate that she has had dessert in the last two meals out I've told you about. But don't forget, Indigo, I got to have at least half of her dessert, so I don't think that counts. Although the dessert she ordered this time included gluten, she had to eat it all herself. We had another fantastic night in there, really good fun, amazing food. We are still trying to keep it as a treat place to go, but it's so good, we both think we should go more often. I am still waiting for an appointment at the hospital to move things on with my headaches that I've been suffering from. Unfortunately, I turned up for an appointment the other week, got as far as the hospital, got to reception, and when I got there, I found out that my appointment had unfortunately been cancelled, but the letter that they sent out to tell me that never reached me. So I had a wasted journey to get to the hospital. Again, no one's fault, just one of those things that seem to happen. They are so busy at the moment, the NHS, and maybe the back office admin system isn't always the best, so it seems. But they have rescheduled the appointment for a month's time, so at least I know I am going to be seen, and hopefully we'll be able to move things forward. It does sound like I'm falling to bits a little, I appreciate, and I am not getting any younger. I am still going to the physiotherapist once a month to sort my back out. I went the other time. He basically measures how I'm doing with my flexibility, which is improving, I'm pleased to say, and then he just bends me about in all sorts of positions that I really don't think my arms, legs and back should go. He even uses like ratchet devices to really try and push them in different directions. That said, I do always feel better the day after I've been. He has given me a whole new set of exercises to do, so I'm still being a very good patient and doing my exercises every morning and every night, being helped by the fact I actually can see the benefits and my back is feeling much better than it did when I first went to see him. It is, of course, Mother's Day tomorrow. Happy Mother's Day to my mum. I am going round to my parents' place to cook dinner for them as my Mother's Day gift. I may also turn up with a card and something else. Just a reminder that you can hear my radio show Saturday afternoons between 2 and 4 at radio9springs.com. That is it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.